Aaliyah was one of the brightest stars of her generation, an R&B sensation, a rising actress, and a true style icon. With hit songs like Try Again and Rock the Boat, she was poised to take over the music and film industries. But in August 2001, tragedy struck when she lost her life in a devastating plane crash at just 22 years old. Her sudden death left fans heartbroken and raised many lingering questions. Today we take a deep dive into what the end of Aaliyah's life was really like, her final months, her career at its peak, and the tragic accident that took her life too soon. Born in 1979, she was the younger of just two siblings, protected, encouraged, and loved by her entire family, but especially by her brother, Rashad. Her parents, Diane and Miguel Houghton, wanted nothing more than to give their children the best life possible. Though originally living in Brooklyn, they moved to Detroit when Aaliyah turned 5, partly to be closer to other family members. This move, a seemingly small decision, would shape Aaliyah's trajectory because it put her within reach of an uncle, Barry Hankerson, who worked as an entertainment lawyer, and his then wife, the legendary singer Gladys Knight. Through that family connection, Aaliyah found herself occasionally on stage with Gladys, getting a taste of live performance that only made her hunger for more. When your parents and your uncle's circle of friends see something remarkable in you, it's hard not to dream big, especially when you also have your grandmother as your fiercest supporter, always championing your every note. Aaliyah's mother, Diane, was a vocalist herself. Not surprisingly, Diane wanted her daughter to study voice, but it wasn't one of those forced parental decisions. From the get-go, it was clear that Aaliyah loved singing. Her brother, Rashad, remembers how from the earliest days she had a voice that was bright, warm, and compelling. There was never any question that this girl was going to do something with her gift. Relatives called her an old soul, possibly because she carried herself with a certain calm maturity, even as a small child. Part of that had to do with the reality that her family's Jamaican and Native American heritage was something she held close and something she never shied away from expressing. She was proud of her background, proud of her grandparents, and open to anything that helped her share that side of herself. Later on, for the Rock the Boat video, she'd even incorporate a bit of this heritage through her stylist's choices. By 6 years old, she'd already had her first role, albeit a small one, in her Catholic school's production of Annie, which flicked a switch in her mind. Performing felt right. Most first graders might daydream about being princesses, astronauts, or, in typical 6-year-old fashion, about things that shift by the minute. Aaliyah, however, was steady and unwavering. She wanted to sing. She wanted to dance. She wanted to perform, full stop. That sense of clarity became a guiding light. No amount of teasing about her short height or potential negativity from classmates was going to derail her. When she got teased in school, her mother stepped in with a mantra that Aaliyah kept for life: let it go in one ear and out the other. She was determined. She was already unstoppable. Soon the chance to perform publicly arrived. Around age 10, she appeared on Star Search, that classic TV program that offered a national stage to fresh-faced talents. She didn't take first place, but host Ed McMahon apparently saw something in her, complimenting her fire, a word that would keep coming up in discussions about Aaliyah. Losing on national TV might have discouraged some kids, but for her, it was just a stepping stone. By age 11, she was sometimes joining Gladys Knight on stage, soaking up every bit of experience. Her early teenage years brought more diligence, more focus on music, and a readiness to break into the industry. If only the industry had been equally ready for her. Not every label jumped at the chance to sign her. Even with an uncle deeply rooted in music contacts, there was skepticism. Perhaps they saw her as too young, or maybe they just didn't understand the quiet confidence she exuded. Barry Hankerson, ever resourceful, decided to handle it himself and founded Blackground Records. He got a distribution deal with Jive Records, allowing him to put out Aaliyah's debut album. That arrangement led to the fateful collaboration with R. Kelly. In 1994, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number arrived, with Aaliyah on the cover, just 15 years old, wearing a pair of shades that seemed to say, "Don't judge me by my youth. Listen to my voice. Pay attention." The R&B world started to do exactly that. She was an extremely hard worker in the studio. R. Kelly, who was already an established star, insisted she re-sing parts of tracks multiple times until they were perfect. To outsiders, it probably looked like a mentorship dream scenario. A young artist with an incredible voice, guided by a top-tier R&B sensation. But as everyone now knows, it was tainted by something much darker. Kelly spent time with her not just in the studio, but at arcades and bowling alleys. He built a sense of trust, perhaps even familial closeness. Meanwhile, her family, seeing only the surface, believed she was in good hands. No one anticipated that the older man's interest in a 15-year-old wasn't strictly musical. It remains one of the biggest scars in Aaliyah's story. Sometime during that period, Kelly married her in secret. She was 15, he was 28. For years, both of them publicly denied any such marriage. He called her a best friend. She said they were just close, but rumors swirled relentlessly. In 1995, Vibe magazine published a copy of their marriage certificate, proving beyond doubt that the union occurred. Aaliyah's parents quickly got it annulled, and from that point forward, she tried to erase Kelly from her life and from any discussion of her music. Even in interviews, she avoided saying his name. She wanted a fresh chapter, one untainted by the scandal. It would take a while for the media and fans to let it go, but eventually, the conversation shifted toward her undeniable talent and away from the personal turmoil. That's not to say her first album was overshadowed entirely. Critics saw something special in the warm, smoky texture of her vocals. Fans took note, and sales ticked upward. She was just 15 after all, and had delivered an R&B album that sounded confident, cool, and full of potential. It was enough to build on, but she wasn't about to stay in that initial lane. She parted ways with Jive and looked for a new label, eventually landing at Atlantic. And it's here that fate stepped in once more. She teamed up with two then up-and-coming producers, Timbaland and Missy Elliott. The synergy of that trio created One in a Million, an album that redefined R&B for the mid-90s. Aaliyah's airy, laid-back vocals on futuristic beats got tongues wagging. People started calling her the future of R&B. She was recognized not as a child star with a weird backstory, but as a creative, trend-setting artist. It was a redemption arc, a statement that she was forging her own destiny. Around this time, she also developed close friendships within showbiz. One such bond was with Kidada Jones, daughter of Quincy Jones, and Peggy Lipton. They met at a fashion show, clicked immediately, and from that point shared everything from heartbreaks to dreams about marriage and kids someday. This was a side of Aaliyah that the public didn't see, the vulnerable teenager who, despite fame, was just a girl with best friends, giggles, and big fantasies about love. But she also faced practical challenges. Producers were wary of being associated with her after the R. Kelly scandal. Despite her second album being a success, some big industry players gave her the cold shoulder. She had to rely heavily on her family's label, Barry Hankerson's Blackground, and on that small circle of supporters who believed in her. Her second album soared, though. Critics loved it. Fans loved it. and it gave her the credibility she needed to truly break out. She didn't limit her artistry to singing and dancing. Aaliyah had always been intrigued by acting. Some artists dabble in film, only to discover it's not for them. Aaliyah, on the other hand, approached it with the same drive she brought to music. After taking lessons, she landed her first major role in Romeo Must Die, a martial arts-heavy reimagining of Shakespeare's classic story. She starred alongside Jet Li, throwing herself into stunt work and fight choreography with surprising gusto. Between takes, she was also the executive producer of the movie's soundtrack, contributing multiple songs, including Try Again, which soared to the top of the charts, snagging an MTV award and a Grammy nomination. It became something of a personal anthem. The idea that if you don't succeed, pick yourself up and try again was, in so many ways, how she lived her life. Her success in Romeo Must Die opened doors to more acting opportunities. Suddenly, directors saw that Aaliyah wasn't just a singer dabbling in film. She had the screen presence to match her musical prowess. She loved exploring different characters, and she also loved that playing roles let her step away from the public's constant gaze upon her real-life struggles. Next came the dream project for someone who adored vampire lore. She signed on to star as Queen Akasha in Queen of the Damned, based on Anne Rice's vampire saga. The role demanded hours in makeup, turning her skin, nails, and teeth an eerie shade of gray. She'd float around set looking like ancient stone come to life, a striking contrast to her warm persona when the camera was off. But that project, too, was overshadowed by tragedy. It would end up being the last film she'd complete in full. Meanwhile, she'd begun recording a third album, self-titled Aaliyah, a project that stretched over a year because her schedule was so packed with film commitments, tours, and appearances. The label pushed to get it out in July 2001, so fans would have fresh music, and there was an electric sense of anticipation. She was older now, 21, going on 22, and the music reflected a more mature, sultry vibe, an evolution from the teenage R&B Queen fans first encountered. Timbaland made sure the production was polished, and Missy Elliott's influence still pulsed through the sound. Reviews were glowing, praising her ability to push the boundaries of R&B without losing her unique vocal style. She had ascended from prodigy to established star. She was unstoppable. Yet behind the scenes, her personal life was shifting, and this time for the better. After rumored flings with a few big names, she found real happiness with Damon Dash, the co-founder of Rockefeller Records. Mutual friends introduced them, and something just clicked. They quickly became inseparable, a calm, private relationship that some called the healthiest romance Aaliyah ever experienced. She confided in close friends that she saw a future with Dash. The couple discussed marriage, children, and a quieter life. Aaliyah admitted she could see herself stepping out of the limelight eventually, focusing on family. It was a vision that gave her a fresh sense of peace. Damon would later say he was just waiting for the right moment to propose. They'd already talked it through, and it was no secret that both of them wanted forever. In August 2001, Aaliyah traveled to Miami to film the music video for Rock the Boat, a track she'd written 2 years earlier, but had only just gotten the label's blessing to release. The label once thought it was too sensual for her younger image, but now she was old enough to own that side of her creativity. The video, directed by Hype Williams, was going to be a vibrant, aquatic-inspired visual. She spent part of the shoot in Miami, capturing underwater scenes, and the plan was to fly to the Bahamas for more footage. This was typical for an artist on top of her game, flying around, living out of hotels, filming a video that fans would soon be replaying over and over. Normally, at least one of her family members accompanied her on such trips, but this time Everything lined up so nobody was available. Her mother was recovering from eye surgery. Her father stayed behind to care for her, and her brother was on the other side of the planet in Australia. It was the first time she'd ever shot a video alone, without family nearby. Some who knew her said she felt uneasy, but she was also a professional, determined to get the job done. Hype Williams remembered how the shoot was going wonderfully, with a sense of camaraderie among the crew. They finished even earlier than expected. That was a Friday. The next day, August 25th, 2001, Aaliyah and 7 of her entourage boarded a twin-engine Cessna 402B to leave the Bahamas. What happened next still leaves fans reeling. The plane crashed less than a minute after takeoff. Investigations revealed that the aircraft was overloaded with gear and luggage, well above the recommended weight. Even more disturbingly, the pilot, Luis Morales, lacked the proper certification and had traces of alcohol and illicit substances in his system. The crash was immediate and catastrophic. Aaliyah and several others died on impact. Some passengers survived the initial horror, but passed away soon after from severe injuries. The world lost a young star who, by all accounts, had just begun her true artistic ascent. News of the tragedy sent shockwaves through the entertainment world. Fans gathered in New York City and Detroit, laying flowers, lighting candles, and leaving heartfelt notes at impromptu memorials. She was only 22, with so much left to achieve. Her family arranged a private funeral, releasing 22 white doves as a symbol of her years on Earth. Outside, thousands of mourners stood vigil. Damon Dash was inconsolable, speaking publicly about how they had planned to marry. Her father and brother were devastated. The entire Houghton family retreated, understandably shattered. Meanwhile, fans turned to her music, making Rock the Boat a posthumous hit and flooding radio stations with requests. Hype Williams decided to release the completed footage, believing Aaliyah would have wanted people to see the finished product. It became a bittersweet testament to her final days. At the time of her death, she was also partially involved in filming the Matrix sequels. The role of Z had to be recast because she'd only completed some early scenes. Queen of the Damned was far enough along that it was eventually released, though the promotion felt ghostly without her presence. Critics recognized that the film, while flawed, demonstrated how seamlessly Aaliyah adapted to larger-than-life roles. The vampiric aesthetic she wore so effortlessly became an eerie final cinematic portrait, and fans flocked to see it, partly to witness the last full performance she'd ever give to the world. In the years that followed, her uncle Barry Hankerson faced lawsuits regarding Blackground Records. Some fans blamed him for not safeguarding her better. Others pointed to the pilot's negligence. Her family filed a wrongful death lawsuit, eventually settling out of court, but no settlement could bring her back or restore what she would have become. Another heartbreaking chapter for fans was the fact that, for the longest time, her music was unavailable on streaming platforms. Blackground withheld her catalog for years, meaning entire generations who might have discovered her organically had to resort to low-quality uploads and bootleg copies. The Houghton estate struggled with how to handle everything, feeling protective of her memory. Eventually, in 2021, word came that her music would finally arrive on streaming services, a relief for fans who believed her voice deserved to be heard by new ears, new hearts, in the digital era. Her behind-the-scenes life was always simpler than people might assume. Friends recall she preferred nights in with loved ones over big parties. She liked laser tag, stuffed animals, collecting quirky pets such as ducks, iguanas, and snakes. There's a story of her cousin Jomo once keeping an alligator, which even she admitted was a step too far. She claimed she never wanted a driver's license, because in NYC, she could just have someone else drive her around. So while on stage she might exude star power, away from the spotlight she remained delightfully down to earth. One might say she was fearless, but she also had her share of anxieties. She'd occasionally mention feeling uneasy about flights, though ironically her lifestyle required them constantly. She once told a friend that she believed every journey was meant to happen or not happen for a reason. A haunting sentiment in retrospect. Her final trip to the Bahamas ended earlier than planned, cut short, ironically, so she could get back to loved ones. She never got that reunion. The R. Kelly scandal might have overshadowed her beginnings, but by the time of her passing, that was mostly in the rear view. She had carved out a distinct identity, a soft-spoken singer with unstoppable stage presence, the Princess of R&B, a collaborator who sparked synergy with everyone from Missy Elliott to Jet Li. The music industry still cites her as a massive influence, from Beyoncé to Rihanna to Drake, who famously has a portrait of Aaliyah tattooed on his body. Younger artists name her repeatedly when asked who shaped their sound or look, and fans speak of her with a hushed reverence, sometimes calling her Baby Girl, the nickname her family used for her. While she was alive, she recorded Journey to the Past for the animated film Anastasia, which got nominated for an Academy Award, eventually losing to that unstoppable juggernaut, My Heart Will Go On. But Aaliyah sang it at the 1998 Oscars, becoming the youngest performer ever on that stage at 19 years old. It was a proud moment, a sign that not only the R&B community but also the broader entertainment world was taking her seriously. She belonged in that realm, and her presence there, dressed in an elegant gown, hitting the stage, telegraphed how easily she floated between multiple entertainment sectors, from pop radio to film soundtracks to primetime awards ceremonies. In interviews post-Kelly, she was reticent about personal relationships. She learned, likely the hard way, that letting the world dissect your private life can overshadow the music. She freed herself from the tabloid chatter by staying tight-lipped, rarely letting slip who she was dating or how she spent her downtime. But the sense of calm happiness she exhibited in that final year or so, especially with Damon Dash, was palpable. She was living proof that you could move past a harrowing event, grow, and still radiate positivity. People asked, why was the plane overloaded? Why wasn't the pilot certified properly? Lawsuits pointed in multiple directions, each claiming a share of the blame. For fans, the frustration was that it was such a needless tragedy. If any one factor had been different, a more cautious pilot, a standard weigh-in procedure for baggage, she might have survived. The notion that a single avoidable mistake stole Aaliyah from the world stings all the more. And yet, out of the ashes, her music refused to be silenced. Rock the Boat soared in popularity. Fans began discovering old tracks like At Your Best, You Are Love, or Are You That Somebody, the latter from the Dr. Dolittle soundtrack, showing her playful side. Her label eventually compiled posthumous releases, though the Houghtons were careful about what they sanctioned. Even if she was no longer physically here, Aaliyah's presence was inescapable on the airwaves, especially in that first year after the accident. For a long while, her albums were oddly difficult to find because Blackground Records kept such a tight hold on them. It was an ongoing heartbreak for fans wanting to introduce new generations to the woman they'd admired. Finally, after many years, the estate announced that her works would come to streaming platforms, letting her voice continue to captivate. The reaction from fans, both old and brand new, was elation. People who'd only ever heard Try Again or Are You That Somebody as truncated radio hits could now dive into entire albums like One in a Million or the self-titled Aaliyah. The brilliance of her synergy with Timbaland and Missy Elliott, her gentle ballads, her playful interludes. Suddenly it was all there, accessible, a reminder that her artistry transcended the era in which she made it. Even Aaliyah's videos, fashion sense, and stage choreography still ripple through today's R&B scene. You see artists wearing an oversized jacket over a tiny crop top, hair over one eye, replicating the sleek, mysterious style that she effortlessly exuded. You see tributes at award shows, where dancers incorporate moves reminiscent of her iconic Are You That Somebody music video. One might wonder what else she would have explored if she'd had another decade or two. Maybe she would have gone deeper into filmmaking, producing more soundtracks, or pivoted to a cinematic career. Or she might have actually stepped away, as she told some friends, focusing on family with Damon Dash, raising kids, letting her discography remain a testament to an era. We'll never know, but the speculation alone shows how deeply she left her mark. Aaliyah's life may have been cut short, but her legacy continues to inspire artists and fans worldwide. From her unforgettable music to her impact on fashion and film, she remains an icon whose influence is still felt today. Though her tragic death left many unanswered questions, one thing is certain: Aaliyah will never be forgotten. What's your favorite memory or song from Aaliyah? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.